Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Radically Loved Radio. I am joined by a very special guest today, somebody that is so near and dear to my heart. We've been trying to make this happen for, it seems like, years. And finally, we're able to sit down and have this conversation. Everybody welcome Grace. Shit. Can you say your last name again? Because I fuck it up all the time. So Grace Kraaijvanger, right?
Kraaijvanger, like
Kraaijvanger.
Kraaijvanger.
I should have just asked you before.
Don't worry.
Kraaijvanger. Oh, like cry.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll do it again. Here, I'll pause it. That way they know to edit this. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Radically Loved Radio. I am so excited to be joined today by a very special guest. I've been trying to get her on the show for a long while now, and I'm so excited to finally have her on. Grace Kraaijvanger is here today, everybody.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here. I'm so glad that we got this time together.
I know, me too. And I will just start by saying that Grace is one of the most inspirational people that I know. What she has accomplished in her life has been so monumental. What she does with cultivating a space for powerful and creative women to come together and just create a supportive community for women of all backgrounds. And aside from that, we have a very special bond because of how we met. And I'm so excited to have you, Grace, on the show today.
Such an honor to be on the show with you and to get to spend any amount of time with you. I just love.
Well, so for the people that are watching this or listening, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I'm the founder of the Hivery, and the Hivery was one of the very first female-focused, female-fueled co-working spaces in the U.S. I started the Hivery 5 years ago in Sausalito, California, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge. And I started it as a bit of an experiment for a need that I was feeling, a need for space and community that had creative energy and kindness and beauty. And I started in a very small space in a loft in an art gallery. It was a bit of a question mark of like, am I the only one that feels this yearning for a different way of working? And it was a resounding yes. I outgrew that space. I've been in a space in downtown Mill Valley in Marin County for the last 3 years now. And then we're continuing to grow and opening in San Francisco in October of 2019.
Yes, which I've been to your first location, right? The Mill Valley one's like the first one.
Yeah.
It is such a great vibe. It's such a great space. And I was honored to speak at last year's The Hivery event with Marie Forleo, Tara Trent. There was just, I can't even name, there was so many people there. And I was like, I still was in awe that I was able to present at the same event that all these people were. And the fact that you were able to bring everybody together was so incredible.
Well, and you really, you're such a great example of what it's all about, because what was so special about what you did that day was to really share your story and how you got to where you are and what evolved and what life experiences and wisdom kind of did that inner mentoring of what you should do or what you could do and what path you would take. And so I feel like you sharing your story that day is such the epitome of what the Hivery is about. So you really got to feel and be an example of why we need spaces like the Hivery. So it's not just about workspace, it's about being able to share our story and grow our story in witness to each other.
Yeah. Why do you think community building, especially for women, is so important?
I mean, there's a couple reasons. One is that I think that our inner critic and our voice of self-doubt gets pretty fierce and fiery when we're alone. So I think when we're in isolation and we're at our home offices or we're not surrounded by that community that we may have had in other parts of our lives, I think that can create a pretty loud voice of self-doubt that tells us that we that we can't go after our dreams, that we can't create meaningful work, that we're not up to the job, that we aren't qualified, or like all the naysayer that comes in our inner voice. I think it's much more active when you're alone. And when we're in community, we not only, what I've seen is that the impact of being in community and creating work in community means that you're taking on the role of the mentor and the mentee constantly. So within community, you're kind of going back and forth with sharing your wisdom and then being refueled by the wisdom and support of others. And it makes a huge difference in the way that we create work. And then, and then on top of that, like, when we start, like any community, when we start pooling our resources, it's that idea of like the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So, we have members at the Hivery that figured out what they wanted to do. Like, I'm thinking of a woman that hadn't worked. She'd been raising her kids for 10 years and she hadn't worked, and she was trying to come back and make a reentry and figure out what she wanted to do. And she not only clarified what she wanted to do, but she built that business, hired the vendors, hired the people to like photograph her website, build her website, all at the Hivery. And then her customers were from the Hivery. So that created this within the community, you get the strength of the ecosystem. And that enables pretty powerful change. So.
Yeah. Well, and you can definitely feel that just meeting all of the incredible women that were there. When the day before the Hivery event, the lab,
it's our
the entrepreneur lab,
annual entrepreneur and inspiration lab.
Yeah, it's amazing. So there was an event held at the Hivery, the workspace, and I got to meet a lot of the members there, and just hearing everybody's story and feedback and admiration for you and the space that you've created for them was so just impactful. And it just left me feeling with this sense of having that desire and needing that. And, there's many great places to be able to do that, that kind of work. But I feel like what you created, there's some special sauce there, right? I mean, I think that there is. And what do you think that special sauce is?
I mean, there's a couple of things. I think one thing is that at the very basic premise of the business, I always say, like, we are a co-working space if you're looking for a description, but the co-working space is just transportation for something that's much deeper. So I think part of the special sauce is the acknowledgement that if we're only creating space, even if it's beautiful, it's not enough. It has to have this deeper meaning, this deeper metaphor of the space being a vehicle for something aspirational for the individual that comes into the space. So I look at it as like a space is expansive and light and art filled and creativity filled and energy filled, but that's a metaphor for the inner work that we're doing as individuals that are in the collective, putting out this meaningful work. So if each of us have this unique path and this unique ability to provide our wisdom and our skills and our talents, the space becomes a vehicle for that. So I think the part of the magic sauce is knowing that the space is just transportation. Like, we're actually doing some powerful work on the human being. And I say that consciously of both the individual being able to show up as she is for who she is, like, and not have to pretend to be anything and not have to pretend to have it figured out. And that open heart and showing up in that way, and you put that in a collective, that's the magic sauce. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. And having it be supportive women as well, because we're not raised to, both you and I, we were raised with sisters. So, and I want to talk about that a little bit. But we're always, especially in the working field or the professional field, it's a very patriarchal and it's very competitive and cutthroat. And in a sense, we forget that utilizing partnerships and forging these bonds as support, we can go further together, as opposed to creating this space where you feel like you have to do everything. It's like, you have to do the photography. You have to edit all of your stuff. You have to, and all this onus falls on you. And in a sense, you cut yourself off from the ability or the opportunity to continue to grow even further than you can imagine.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I mean, the power and impact that's created when we, like, again, when we join forces. So it's that whole idea of like, you hear this phrase a lot, like kindness over competition. I remember when I first had kids, I have 2 teenagers. And when I first had kids, I remember my husband and I talking about like, what do we want for these kids? Like, and you think about all the attributes that you want in a person, and the thing that kept coming back to us is we're like, we just want to create nice people. We want to create kind people. And my business is the same. Like, it was so important to me that we could create a community that wasn't just about the network or about about all the powerful, incredible work that these women are doing, which they are, but can we do that in a way that's layered in kindness and support? And what happens, like how powerful would that be when we bring in the value system of kindness and creativity and collaboration, and what happens then? So it was reimagining, because you're absolutely right. Like in so many of the work environments, it's not just patriarchal, but it's built in a way that's meant to be very competitive and comparison based. And I really wanted to dismantle that. I wanted to reinvent the way that we look at creating work that really is about like what happens if, as human beings, kindness is the connection.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't have a viable business and be kind. It's actually, you absolutely can. So the Hivery was a way to prove that. Yeah. So, yeah.
So how has it, for you personally in your life, how has having this community of women helped you?
Endlessly. I mean, from like the mushy gushy stuff, like inspiration, like I get that all day long. I get like moved to tears multiple times a day by what people are creating and discovering inside themselves and putting themselves out there in a way that they didn't even know was possible for themselves, inside. So the inspiration is unbelievable. And like you, like I hear women's stories that are just moving and resilient and extraordinary. And then there's the tangible piece of the way that my life has changed to learn from so many extraordinary women, to be able to be like a sponge connector that's, that meets all of this incredible expertise and is able to bring it towards work and profitable business for them. I mean, I want our members, our community, to create value in their lives and to see that in action. It's been life-changing. So it's both the inspiration and then it's the practical of like, wow, we can build an extraordinary business on something that I've been yearning for and craving probably my whole life. So it's both. It's the kind of brass tacks.
Yeah. What do you think? One of the things that I wanted to ask you, and this was before, especially being around women who obviously when they show up to the Hivery, they've already taken that step. They've already overcome the fear obstacle of like, what do I have to offer? Or I'm insecure of going into the space. There's going to be other women that are more successful. Like they've already made that push. But for the people that are listening to this, in particular the women that feel a sense of inadequacy, or don't feel like they're at a place yet to go find this community. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Like, what would you say to those women that are listening to this right now?
I mean, it's at a very basic level, like showing up in any capacity is life-changing. And not showing up is being stuck. So often I hear, and this isn't just women, this is human beings. Like we get into the transition, or we're kind of in the gray area between chapters. And that creates this feeling of like, who am I? What am I about? What am I doing? What can I do? Again, inadequacy chimes in really loud when we're alone in our thoughts. And I've noticed this at the Hivery, sometimes I'll have people come and say like, I looked at your website for 2 years before I finally had the guts to come. And I've realized like that's part of my job, is to break down that barrier, to make sure that people know when we show up in any way, the smallest step, even showing up to an event that's outside your comfort zone, or reaching out to someone via email that's outside your comfort zone, those small steps lead to extraordinary leaps. It's the baby steps that add up to the big stuff. And I think raising our hand and remembering like we have this one precious life and it's short, and waiting around for everything to be perfect and to be ready, probably not going to happen, So it's like really finding that gumption inside to say, I'm going to show up even if it's small and see what happens and follow that song. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's totally right. That's really great advice to give, especially, I mean, if people are listening to a podcast like this, or they have already just even the curiosity, I think that following that is going to make leaps and bounds on your route to creating a new paradigm, or just creating something new in your life. So
it matters. I want to just add to that really quick, because sometimes that feeling of being stuck can feel stagnant. And I've actually found that when we feel stuck, there is an energy. Like I always think of being stuck as something that happens right before the explosion. And I mean the explosion in a good way. Like it's like that energy is pent up and ready and needs to be let out towards that thing in your gut that you're yearning for in whatever that, like whether it's creating meaningful work, creating art, whatever your impact is. When you feel like the unknown, that feeling of like, I don't know which way to turn, that's actually a collective energy that needs to be released. And when we can release and follow that, that's when all the good stuff happens. We're like waiting on the other side. And what we really need to do is go toward that energy, toward healing.
Yeah. What has been your biggest lesson as a mother that you've learned and that has impacted your way of being out in the professional world?
I mean, so I think I've learned so many lessons from my teenagers. I mean, the biggest one that being a parent to teenagers puts you up against, like you're faced with everything that you're working on as a human being. So the tension in a parent-teenager relationship is often like again, it's, we've heard this before, but it's the mirror. It's the mirror of like, oh, here's what you're working on. Oh, there's your weak spot. There's your insecurity. So I've learned, and I've also learned that a good sense of humor goes a long way, because there are pieces of it where it really shows you're like, oh, right. I've been working on that my whole life. And they're like, there it is. There you have it. So, and then, sometimes as a mom, I feel like I kind of need to listen to my own advice, because I tell my kids all day long, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, we're all a work in progress. And then sometimes it's those very same things, those same lessons that I'm taking in and internalizing for myself too. We teach what we need to learn ideas, right?
Yeah. I love that. I say that all the time. I think that's the biggest lesson, especially people out there that are in, on the platform of being a teacher or influencer, or they're an expert, that we are all still learning. And I feel like, be wary of the people that say they have all the answers.
And it's like, I talk about creating a business, whether it's my process of creating the Hivery and or the many, entrepreneurs and artists and creatives and, people across all industries that I've met along the way, that for those of us that are willing to take on that process as a creative process, an artistic process, that says like, it's not about just this black and white outcome. It's about the desire to be in the process of the unknown. Like, it's like, you don't come to a canvas and know exactly what you're going to paint. And you don't come to a business and know exactly what you're going to build. Like, being willing to go into the process I think it's part of the human experience. And I feel the same way about being a parent. I'm like, knowing that I'm never going to just have this thing nailed. It's always going to be, I'm always going to be evolving. They're changing. I'm changing. The challenges are changing. I'm never going to say like, I got this all figured out. It's always being willing to be in the process.
Yeah. And that's one of the things about you that I admire the most. It's like throughout all of the processes that you've gone through with business and your personal life, like, being able to keep this attitude and this energy of like positivity and optimism, and just that momentum to keep moving forward. How do you do that?
I don't always do that. I mean, I'm as human as the next person. So I mean, I do think about, and I know that this is part of your teachings too. Like, I know that there's things I can do that put me in the best emotional state that I can, that I can ask for. And within that, there are going to be peaks and valleys. Certainly I've had some pretty serious valleys. There's been some, in the last 5 years of building the Hivery, I've had some incredible personal loss, and we can talk about this more, but you and I met through my sister, Maggie, who, I know that we'll go into this, but she died at 34. She died last year of breast cancer. She was my best friend. It was soul crushing. It is, grief is, could be a full-time job. And to be able to be able to continue to be able to get out of bed sometimes was a challenge. To be able to show up to my business and be the person I wanted to be, it took and takes, because it's not in the past, it takes thoughtfulness. I know that there's certain things, if I meditate every morning, I'm going to be able to handle things better. Do I meditate every morning? No, I'm not there yet. So I do my best to put together the formula that makes me my best. And then I know that within that, I'm a human being, and I'm going to have my ups and downs. I'm going to have times that I feel more resilient than others. I just know that there's pieces that make it better. So meditation makes it better. Nature makes it better. Connection and relationship makes it better. Walking, movement, dance makes it better. Do I do all those things all the time consistently? Sure don't. I'm a human being, but I've learned a lot about the emotional fitness and the emotional resilience and what factors into that, the things that help. There's things that help. Yeah. It's not a perfect formula, but there's things that help. So.
Yeah. Oh, no, I love that. And it's like, as Grace said, we did meet through Maggie, her sister, and without us both getting emotional, because I feel like it's still like it happens every time.
Right. I look at you and I get tears in my eyes.
I know. Sorry.
No, it's good. Like loving tears. It's good.
Yeah, we forged a very special bond because before Maggie passed away, the months preceding, almost a year, I think. No, months, was it almost a year?
Like 15 months ago.
Yeah. We had, we were doing some work together, and Maggie is an incredible light still. And she was so resilient and so connected and so open. And I feel like her courage in dealing with being ill, and in your courage in continuing to keep that optimism, even in the moments where it wasn't. You wrote this incredible letter. If you posted it on the blog, was it on your blog that you posted? Yeah. I will put a link to that on the show notes of this podcast, because if you want to know what happened, I would read that op-ed. It was so incredible. And for me, it took me like 2 or 3 days to actually get through it, because every time I'd keep reading and I'd get like so emotional, because it was a very intense time. And I'm like, for the reasons that we all know, any loss is painful. But this really created an opening, I think, in everybody who knew Maggie. And we'll never ever forget her. I mean, she will be with us forever. And
it's interesting. I learned so much even in the way that I met you. I think sometimes for those of us that are like makers and creators and entrepreneurs and artists and the people that put ourselves out there in the world, it takes some learning how to ask for help. And I felt like I was drowning in like sadness and wanting to help my sister. And what she wanted was, and it was, she knew that her cancer was going in the wrong direction, and she had said, she's like, I've meditated for a couple of years, but I feel like I feel like I would like someone to teach me, to be my teacher, to guide me, to go deeper in this process, because I need it. I need this right now. She was like, I know that, we didn't know at the time that she would pass, but we knew that she was in the middle of a really intense battle. And she wanted to show up to that battle as present and connected as she could. And I remember reaching out to another Hivery member that we have in common. Yes, Tara Moore, who's the author of Playing Big. She's a member here at the Hivery, and I remember reaching out to her. And what I love about the way that, being able to drop all your barriers and boundaries and just say, I need help. I told her, I was like, I need help. I need help to be a good sister. I need help to get her the resources that she is looking for in terms of like a spiritual guide. And I need help, I need help in making that happen. And I need help in making that possible in a way that I can, that I can be part of. And she introduced you and I. And so even that is an example of what happens in community, of being able to stay at those vulnerable places. Like I want to be a strong leader, but I need help and I'm hurting, and being able to be honest in that and reach out in that way and have your community step toward you and help you and bring someone like you into my life and to Maggie's life. It's pretty powerful stuff. It's not just a chance meeting.
I don't think it was by chance. I think the way it all worked out, it was designed to happen. And again, like I said, I'm so grateful, and it's made such a huge impact in my life. And to me, I just feel like it extended my family. I feel very much a part of you and your family and the Hivery and that community, that family. So it's been just such an incredible joy to see the growth and to continue to see the growth. And obviously you and I can talk about this forever, days and days. But one of the things that I did want to mention and have us talk about a little bit is, you and I, we live in two different cities, and there's people that are listening to this from all across the globe. We have people that listen in Australia, people that listen in the UK, in Russia, in North and South America.
I love that. Your message and your voice should be heard all over the world. So
goodness. I know. I still am in shock that you guys are all listening. Thank you, by the way. So for the people that are listening from all over and they don't have a Hivery space to actually go to, what are some ways that they can begin to cultivate community on their own? Is there any resources?
I love that. I mean, one thing through the Hivery that comes to mind is, so we started seeing that there was so much magic, if you will, like you remember you said the magic sauce. There was so much magic happening in terms of the connection and what happens when women support each other. And I was seeing such a tangible impact that it's really, it didn't feel good to keep it in the walls. Like it felt like it needed to come out, that we all have this yearning, this desire to create our next chapters and to not do it alone and to do it with the support of others. And how astounding would it be as humans if we could create these new chapters of meaningful work with kindness. So I felt like that message resonated. So what we did with the Hivery is we take all of our events and our workshops and our member directory and our community board, and we created a virtual membership within that. So if you're interested in being part of a community like the Hivery, you don't need to be here in Northern California to do that. You could be part of it through our virtual membership and get access to all of our speakers and workshops and events and connect with members all over the world. Ask questions, ask for mentorship, ask for help. That's a big one. Share your victory, share your challenges. So through the Hivery, that's one way you can do it from wherever you are. I mean, in general, I feel like the significant impact of gathering together in this way, in a way that's centered in kindness, of supporting each other's work, that can be in a coffee meetup that happens once a month. Like when you create with the intention of, I'm going to put myself out there for another human being and create that reciprocity of like, I'm going to give in order to be refueled. We can do that in ways big and small. We can do that in ways like joining the Hivery, but we can also do that by meeting at your yoga class and, agreeing that we're going to spend, once a month, we're going to brainstorm about how we can elevate each other's work, or how we can help to clarify each other's work, or how we can just help each other simply. Yeah. So I can't reiterate enough that the capacity for creating that massive impact that comes with community, it doesn't have to be a big thing. Yeah. It can be the smallest and of thoughtful intention.
Oh, yeah. So powerful. Grace, oh my God, I love you so much. Right back. So for the people that are listening or watching this video, where can they go to get more information about you and the Hivery and any future events that are coming up?
Well, I would love it. You can follow us at the Hivery. So the Hivery on Instagram, the Hivery on Facebook, and then visit our website at thehivery.com. And I'd love to connect with you there. Again, we've got information about our virtual membership, all of our events, our big annual event, our launch celebration. We're opening on the waterfront in San Francisco at the Fort Mason Center for the Arts, end of October. Cannot wait. We're doing a big launch celebration weekend on November 3rd. If you're near San Francisco, you will definitely want to come. It's free. We're having incredible, speakers and experiential workshops. So I keep using that word that you used, but we're recreating that magic sauce, or bringing that magic sauce into all of these different experiences. So new spaces, new events, all kinds of things. So you'll find all of that, on Instagram, Facebook, at the Hivery, or at thehivery.com.
Cool. Yeah. And so for those of you listening or watching this, if you go to the info button, if you're listening on the podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube, all those links will be provided in the info section to follow the Hivery and to get updated on all the events. Also, they have an incredible newsletter that I'm subscribed to. And Grace always writes some very thoughtful and heartfelt letters to everybody to update you. And you don't get like spammy emails, so don't worry. It's very heart-centered and very informative. So you can also sign up for that.
We just put this on our website. We're doing this free mini course called the 5 Truths of Transformation. And it's super cool. So it's on our homepage at thehivery.com. Free mini course on 5 Truths of Transformation. And it's based on, I'm in this really lucky position of seeing thousands of people changing their lives on a regular basis. And I started to see the consistencies of what creates positive transformation. So check that out. That's a really cool tool.
That is awesome. Yeah, I'm very excited about that. So I have one final question for you. And it's a question that I ask all of my guests, and it's pertaining to why I created this podcast and why I called my business Radically Loved. It comes from this idea that we are all radically loved and supported by God, source, universe, whatever higher power that you believe in, that the universe works for us and not against us. So the final question to you is, how do you feel radically loved?
Oh my gosh. I feel radically loved. I feel radically loved by people that are on this earth and the people that are not. Going back to our earlier part, I continue to feel radically loved by my sister Maggie, who is no longer on this earth, but still so connected in my heart. I feel radically loved from my mom, who I lost 8 years ago, I just feel like I've got like my army of angels behind me, showing me the way. And then I've got my army of angels on this planet as well. People like you that I've connected with that I feel like see me and hear me, like one heart to another, my husband, my kids, my community, my friends. You don't make radical change and feel radically loved in this life without incredible humans around you. And I'm really lucky that I have that.
Wow. I love that. What a great answer. I'm like, oh, I love you. Grace, thank you so much for doing this, for being part of our show, and for allowing me to be a part of your community. You are such an inspiration, and I love you so much. And I know that you know that. And I'm just so excited to share you and your message with our audience. So for those of you that are listening, please stay in touch. Share this episode with anybody who you think would benefit from it. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast. On that note, thank you all so much for listening or for watching this video. We will see you again next week.
Sounds great. Yay. Bye.